I would like to call on Uduak Koka.
This is such a really great conversation. Um, I think it's difficult to forecast, what a post-COVID world might actually look like. But, on the topic of equal future and in particular personal leadership, I think there's a number of things that we could all do to try and, position ourselves to just be better within our crafts. So I think to echo what quite a few of the speakers have said before, I think it's so important to be yourself. And, I really have to stress, be yourself. It's so important because, it took me personally, it took me a while to come into my own. So sort of starting out in my career, and almost sort of 13 years later, I'm often the youngest person in the room. I'm almost always the only woman in the room. And, 99.9% of the time, I'm the only Black person in the room. So, early on, I felt that the only way that I could be accepted was to conform. This is the only way that I was going to get them to like me. But at some point, I kind of just came to the realization that, as a woman and as a woman of color, people are going to form an opinion of you before you open your mouth and even after you open your mouth, whether you're speaking sense or not. So I think it's just important that you might as well just dare to be yourself, because what is the worst that could happen? People are going to talk anyway. For anyone sort of early in their career, I'd say, do what you can to be the best in your craft. Like, really be unwavering in that quest to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Become obsessed with it. Learn the journeys of others, and maybe even more importantly, find your tribe, be that within your organization or outside of your organization, because that way you can share and exchange knowledge and really start to build that community. And that could be what helps propel you, much further. I think it's also important to really to develop a roadmap, of how you plan to get there, because an idea without a plan is just a dream, right? So, at the same time, don't be too rigid. So be open to opportunities that could arise along that journey. Another thing I'd say that we could do to sort of take ourselves further is developing soft skills. And that's not something that's often spoken about, but I think it's really important to keep at the forefront. So whilst I mentioned before that one should be at the top of their craft and know their stuff, having good working relationships with people is one of the things that will also get you far. I think one of the speakers mentioned before that having a sponsor is important, and I completely agree. I think having someone in the room who will advocate for you on your behalf is invaluable. But I think at a certain point, one's sort of social and emotional intelligence, so your ability to connect with people, becomes extremely important, and will be the thing that nurtures those relationships, brings people on board, so that it's a lot easier to influence and sort of lead people. And finally, I think another thing that we could do is filtering. So I was watching these documentaries like some years ago, and there was this guy who gave this really good analogy where he said that we are all effectively satellite receivers. And so we receive so much information, and so we have to be conscious of what we're taking in. So, if we sit and absorb all the negative things that we see, idolizing people on social media, comparing ourselves, that could start to undermine your sense of self-worth. So one should be very intentional about what you allow yourself to engage with, because, whether we like to admit it or not, things affect us. Our subconscious is always listening. So how we speak to ourselves and how we filter information will facilitate getting you to where you want to be. And that's all I wanted to add.